Welcome. I'm Gene Hall, your host for Rural Texas, right here on the RFD Television Network. Got a busy show this week, so let's get right to it. I'll have a conversation with Chet Edwards, the congressman from Central Texas that many believe is the most powerful Democrat in Texas, as the Democrats take control in Washington, D.C. We'll talk to the three finalists of the Young Farmer and Rancher Award competition of Texas Farm Bureau and announce the winner of that competition. But first, Tom Nicoletti has a profile of the newly elected Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Texas. Here's Tom's report.
New Texas Commissioner of Agriculture Todd Staples of Palestine brings his rural background and elected office experience to the highest agricultural office in the state.
Well, it's a very real honor to be elected Commissioner of Agriculture and represent all Texans in this very important position. Our state has a rich heritage of farming and ranching, and it is a very big part of our past, but it is an extremely important part of our future as well.
The native East Texan has been involved in the family cow-calf operation since childhood. He served as the state vice president of the Future Farmers of America before receiving an agricultural economics degree from Texas A&M University. Staples was elected to office to serve in Austin, first as a state representative and then in the Texas Senate. Today he runs a commercial cattle operation with his father in Anderson County. As Commissioner of Agriculture, Staples wants to be an advocate for Texas farmers and ranchers.
Really what this job is about partnering for progress, being a partner with the producers all across the state of Texas to make certain we can create new markets, create the greater opportunities for exports. Agriculture is about business. It's about productivity and it's about profitability.
Staples says he plans to continue the value-added initiatives implemented by outgoing Ag Commissioner Susan Combs, such as the Go Texan and Texas Yes programs. There are numerous issues facing Texas farmers and ranchers in 2007 and beyond. The state's agriculture commissioner faces similar challenges. High on the list for Staples is the 2-year drought that has plagued the state of Texas.
When you think about the drought, it really calls our minds to the importance of water planning. And in the state of Texas, we know we do not have the water resources to face a prolonged drought. Agricultural producers cannot pay the same prices that urban and municipality users use for water. And so it's vitally important that the agricultural community come together and work with our suburban and urban neighbors in a partnership to make certain we have the water resources we need to meet the demands today and the demands that we know we will have in the future.
Staples says renewable energy and biofuels reduce the United States' dependence on foreign oil imports while benefiting agricultural producers.
Renewable energy and biofuels offers economic opportunity and job growth in rural Texas. It'll help our farming and ranching community with additional income, and it can also help our urban neighbors address the clean air problems that we have today, and that's going to be a very big initiative.
The East Texas rancher supports a voluntary national animal identification system where producers can respond to the marketplace to ensure safe and reliable products.
As technology increases, as more producers have input to the process, I think we'll see a voluntary plan that is responsive and allows for adequate traceback.
Staples believes farmers and ranchers must continue to be vigilant of any type of agro-terrorism threats to the food supply. The Texas Ag Commissioner says a constitutional amendment must be passed in the state that restricts and prohibits government and other entities from exercising eminent domain solely for economic development purposes. As the state's population growth continues, along with urban sprawl, Staples is convinced agricultural producers must protect ag valuations in the tax code.
It's so important that we maintain and protect the incentives that we have to make certain that land remains in agricultural production. Because if those incentives are removed, the price of food will dramatically increase.
Commissioner Staples has ideas on how to market, promote, and grow the Texas agricultural industry, which contributes $73 billion to the state's economy and is the #2 industry statewide.
I look forward to forming working groups in the different commodity areas all across Texas that will have tangible ideas to work on and to develop so that we can initiate policy recommendations to the legislature I also want to create economic development summits in every region of the state and bring the resources to every part of Texas.
Todd Staples, rancher, legislator, and now Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. For Rural Texas, I'm Tom Nicoletti in Palestine.
Thank you, Tom. We'll be back with more of Rural Texas right after this.
Decades ago, Americans started leaving the farm for other professions and pursuits. The farmers that stayed fed America and much of the world. Today we grow more food than ever, and it's better, safer, and healthier. We live in the land of plenty, thanks to modern agricultural technology and the skills of our farm and ranch families. This message is brought to you by the Texas Farm Bureau, the voice of Texas agriculture. Today's abundance of food and fiber is brought to you by America's farmers and ranchers.
We're joined today on Rural Texas by the newly re-elected congressman in the 17th District of Texas, Democrat Chet Edwards. Congressman, congratulations on your big victory.
Well, thanks. It's great to have it over with and to be back to work.
You faced a situation that many expected, that the Democrats are now in the majority.
Yes.
Your thoughts on that? How will things progress with particular regard to farm policy?
I think we have to start working together now to shape a solid farm bill that will continue to provide a safety net for our family farmers and ranchers. It's vital if we want to preserve our American way of agriculture. And I hope we can address the issue of drought relief. There are a lot of farmers and ranchers in our country, and certainly here in Texas, that desperately need drought relief as a result of the terrible weather conditions over the last several years. And I'm optimistic about the future. I know there's some who are concerned about a liberal lurch of some within my party as Democrats, but I think there are a lot of moderate and conservative Democrats that don't get a lot of national TV coverage, that are going to fight hard to see that we're a mainstream party. And one of our top planks should be to stand up and fight for rural America and our family farmers and ranchers.
And too, many of the new Democrats that were elected look a lot like you, don't they?
Absolutely. If you look at the reason for Democrats now having the majority in the House and the Senate, these were people elected from Republican-leaning states and Republican-leaning districts. So I think there's going to be a strong move to push mainstream programs that really reflect the American people's values.
Just a couple of weeks ago, you stood here in Waco with Congressman Colin Peterson of Minnesota, meeting with some farmers and ranchers. How do you think that sets the stage for farm policy?
I think Colin Peterson, who's a very good friend of mine, is going to be an outstanding chairman of the Agriculture Committee. He's a Blue Dog Democrat. He's a conservative Democrat. When he met with my Central Texas constituents and Farm Bureau leaders, I think he made a very good impression. And Colin Peterson is a perfect example of the kind of moderate to conservative mainstream Democrat that doesn't get invited to the cable talk shows because he's not an extremist. They like the far right and far left to battle each other. He's kind of the quiet, behind-the-scenes Democrat that I think will be a strong voice for agriculture and our rural family farmers and ranchers.
He seems to like the idea of extending the 2002 Farm Bill. Do you think that's likely at this point?
I hope so. I think it's something we need, and farmers and those who finance them and those who support our ranchers need to have some certainty about what the rules of the game are going to be when it comes to the next couple of years. And until we can figure out what's going to happen in the Doha rounds of trade agreements and discussions, I think it's vital that we have some stability in our farm program. I'm certainly going to support an extension of the Farm Bill, and I know Colin Peterson supports that as well.
After November 7th, it was written many times, so I'm not original on this, but many people are calling you the leading Democrat in Texas right now. You are certainly in the majority in Washington now, and yet in the minority in Texas, which is pretty much a Republican state. Right. What kind of challenges do you see ahead?
Well, I think the challenge, first of all, is for us to return a spirit of bipartisanship and respect in Congress and in Washington. It's clear to me that's what Republicans and Democrats all across grassroots America are crying out for, and our country desperately needs that as we face a war on terrorism and serious challenges here domestically. I look forward to working with my Republican and Democratic colleagues from Texas to see that we maintain and rebuild in some places where it's been lost the kind of Texas legacy of working together for Texas family farmers and ranchers, and businesses and for our state.
Congressman, congratulations again, and thanks for being on our show today.
It's great to be here with you.
When we come back, it'll be time to meet the outstanding young farmer rancher of Texas. Stay with us.
Agriculture is Texas' renewable industry, not only growing food and fiber for Texas families, but creating 1 in 5 Texas jobs. I'm Mike Barnett, editor of Texas Agriculture. In our publication, you'll read profiles of the trendsetters of agriculture in the Lone Star State. We'll bring you profiles of farmers and ranchers surviving and thriving on the land and the issues shaping the future of rural Texas. Read all about it in Texas Agriculture, an exclusive benefit of your Texas Farm Bureau membership.
Each year, the Texas Farm Bureau names an outstanding young farmer and rancher in the Lone Star State. We produced a video of the 3 finalists in this competition. Let's take a look at that now. The Texas Farm Bureau's Outstanding Young Farmer Rancher competition is a showcase of innovation, determination, production skills, and marketing judgment. It is also a window on the future of Texas agriculture and Farm Bureau leadership. Join us now on our video journey to the farms and lives of our 3 finalists. One of them will be named as the Texas Farm Bureau Outstanding Young Farmer Rancher of 2006. Our first stop is on the high plains of Texas, on the Lubbock County farm of Eddie and Heather Griffis. If you are from that part of Texas, you may think you've heard that voice before. You probably have. Eddie Griffis is a farmer first, but he's also a farm broadcaster on radio station KJ-TV in Lubbock.
Initially, I didn't have the time for it. A couple years later, they contacted me again, and some things had changed for me, and I was in a position to where I could try it, so I told them I'd come in and fill in for a little while, and I've been filling in now for 7 years, I guess now.
Eddie also does some broadcast work on TV, and he is a contributor to the Texas Farm Bureau's Farm Bureau Roundup program. But it's the farm that claims the bulk of his time and all of his heart. Today, Eddie farms nearly 3,000 acres of land in one of the world's largest cotton-producing regions. Although starting with cotton only, he has added wheat, sunflowers, and sorghum to his farm operations, as well as about 600 head of cattle. He had a custom spraying business and still runs a custom farming operation. Eventually, the custom farming grew to the point of sustaining itself, and he left the spraying business behind.
I have a long history of agriculture in my family and grew up loving agriculture. And since I was a little kid, one day I wanted to grow up and hopefully be a part of agriculture myself. Of course, some of the everyday challenges you face are prices, commodity prices, whether it be on cotton, wheat, corn, whatever. You have to it seems like be a lot more frugal each and every year. And when you think you've tightened your belt all the way it can be tightened, you have to tighten it a little more the next year, especially in a world market. You have to watch every penny and keep a close eye on the balance sheet.
A few years ago, when the farm began to pull its own weight, Eddie gave in to his longing to return to the cattle business. He and Heather purchased a ranch on which is based his growing cattle business and hunting leases that have become important to the bottom line. Marketing, he says, has become the key to survival on the farm today.
Risk management is a key component of my operation. I utilize Jay Yates with Texas A&M, not only as market strategy, but risk management. We can sit down, take an overall look at my operation each and every year, see if I need something, also see if something needs to go. And then marketing is crucial now. You can't rely on everything else in the outside world. You've got to be a good marketer to make sure that you're going to get the most for your commodity.
There's no lack of technology on the Griffis farm, machinery equipped with GPS and advanced irrigation technology. Eddie and Heather are parents of 2 children, a daughter, Briar, age 2, and a son, Destry, not quite a year old. Eddie says Heather plays all the traditional roles of a farm wife, but in addition, she is vital to the success of the farming operation. For both of them, preserving the family tradition of agriculture is very important.
I say, great, go for it if that's what's in your heart. It's got to be in your heart, though, because if it's not, it's probably not for you. I can tell you that whenever we've gone through some rough times, I ask my husband, is it really worth it? You know, can you do the radio full time and we could make it that way? And he said, sure, I could, but it's in my blood and I love it. And even if I didn't make a penny, I think I'd still want to do it. So I think I'll probably tell them if they believe in it and it's in their heart and in their blood, then they should definitely pursue that.
I would love to see both of them be a part of the farm. I'd like to see them grow up being involved and have an interest in agriculture. If it's not out here on our farm in production agriculture or the cattle operation or any of that, I want them to have that option. I want them to be able to come back if they want to come back.
Heather and Eddie Griffis, the outstanding young farmer rancher finalist from Lubbock County. Next, we visit the Carson County farm of Justin and Barbie Dower. For Justin, it's not a matter of deciding to become a farmer. It's really all he's ever been by choice.
Oh, this is kind of what I wanted to do my whole life. It's something that my dad's done, and my granddad before him, and my great-granddad before him, all right here in this area. So I guess it's just a family tradition. There's a lot of other things that a guy could do to probably make a lot better living, in fact, and maybe not work quite as hard, but the personal satisfaction of it. I guess it is a challenge, but I guess that's part of the fun, seeing if you can overcome the challenges that are placed in front of you.
From earning his degree in animal science at Oklahoma State to farming more than 1,600 acres and running more than 300 head of cattle, Justin is definitely doing his part to carry on that family tradition. Justin and Barbie own about 40 acres northeast of Panhandle, where the family home, working pens, and the barns and equipment are located. They lease most of their land for their farm and ranching needs, growing everything from wheat and milo to cotton and Bermuda grass. They split their cattle herd between a cow-calf operation and stocker calves. Working all leased land requires that costs be closely monitored, and a year like the last one makes watching the bottom line a daily task.
The whole state of Texas has been in a drought. Rising energy costs, a big factor. Didn't have hardly any wheat production this year, had very little grazing. But those are the big, just lack of rainfall and high inputs all around, but particularly on the fuel side of things, has been the biggest obstacles I've had to face this year.
Justin has gone to minimum and no-till planting, which means a lot less plowing than before. They use spray rigs to keep the weeds down, which also helps conserve soil moisture. They use center pivots and nozzle packages to save water. While optimistic about the future, Justin says the key to today's agriculture lies in continually becoming more efficient.
I'm trying to run everything kind of through my cow herd and through livestock in some form or fashion. I'm trying to go through some markets that aren't necessarily traded so heavily on the Board of Trade, and that maybe that we don't have to worry about other countries being able to produce it cheaper.
In the future, Justin says he hopes to build on his livestock operation. He's looking into planting alfalfa next year to build his hay production business, and eventually he hopes to follow in the family tradition in raising purebred Herefords. Barbie grew up in a fourth-generation dairy family in New Mexico, a heritage she keeps alive with a dozen or so bottle calves, a project for her along with 5-year-old daughter Ashby and 4-year-old son Jared.
I would encourage both Ashby and Jared to come back home to the farm, to the ranch, or pursue another career in agriculture. I know that the future of ag, especially for young farmers and ranchers, is, you know, there's a lot of obstacles that we will have to overcome. It's a hard job, but I think it definitely has its benefits, and we're very optimistic that we will be able to continue this for them and that they will have the same opportunities to come back. I think the main thing I learned growing up on a dairy farm in a dairy family is the benefit of hard work. That sometimes while you're doing it, it's not always the most fun, but in the end, when you can look back and say, you know, we did that, and be very proud of what we've done.
There'll always be opportunities to make money in production agriculture. You're going to have to change and and become more efficient as we go along, just like farmers and ranchers have been doing forever. You know, they constantly having to do what they can to become more efficient. And sometimes you got to try new things, and sometimes those things work, and sometimes they don't. But I think if a guy just gets out there and works hard at it, and kind of watches his pennies, and is open to new ideas, I think there's a lot of future in production ag.
Justin and Barbie Dower, the Outstanding Young Farmer Rancher finalists from Carson County. Here in Johnson County near Grandview, we stop at the farm of Jay and Laura Davis. Our conversation with Jay takes place following 2 of the most difficult years in farming and ranching that he could possibly imagine.
Certainly hope we don't see any time like it very soon, because as far as the farming operation, out of the past 4 crop seasons, be it winter and spring planted crops, you can pretty well say that 3 of them were failures. Last year, we put up about 25% of normal hay. This year, we were facing an even greater reduction. We looked at more creative ideas in terms of the baling of crop residues. Had never baled the corn stalks before, but we did this year and put up quite a few bales of corn stalks, and really kind of counting on that to get us through this winter.
When Jay started baling another sparse crop of hay this season, he had only 4 bales left. It was a situation that tested all he'd learned in earning an animal science degree at Texas A&M and a master's from Texas Tech. Ranching is the bulk of Jay's operation. He runs stocker cattle and preconditions feeder cattle. He also develops replacement heifers and develops breeding bulls. He uses the farming operation to ensure feed for the cattle, growing corn, wheat, oats, and several varieties of forage. Jay and his family also operate a farm service company for custom fertilizer applications and a trucking company transporting cattle, feed, and fertilizer. The overriding strategy of his operation is to make sure the final product is as close to the consumer as possible. As a young operator always seeking an edge, perhaps the most significant advantage was growing up in the business.
I think unless you grow up in agriculture, you don't have a good understanding of the time requirements and the time commitments that it takes to truly be successful in production agriculture. We're not really prospecting increases in our commodity prices. That being said, what we're able to do is try to focus on efficiency, and you're seeing a lot more emphasis put on trying to reduce our inputs, also trying to differentiate your product and add value to your product. That's one of the main things that I'm trying to do here. You know, like my grain production, by being able to convert that product into the finished product, be it feed for livestock, and sell it on a retail level, is a whole lot better than selling that grain at the local elevator for me.
Both Jay and Laura are hopeful that the farming and ranching bug nibbles on young Jet, now only a year old, but they both insist it's a decision he'll have to make on his own. Laura puts in a full week at Lockheed Martin, involved in the manufacture of aircraft. Not a farm girl, she's now much at home in the Davis rural lifestyle.
Well, I think we're very blessed to have him grow up and have these opportunities to see all these things that I, living in the city, didn't get to see, the nature and growing things and being around this environment. I think it's just wonderful. And he's already, anytime his dad gets ready to go out in the mornings, he has to go for his truck ride. He's in a grouchy mood if he doesn't get to do that. It was very hard at first. Of course, when we got married, when we got back from our honeymoon, it was wheat harvest. So I did not see him for 2 weeks. And he tried to prepare me for the long hours and the hard work that's all involved. But even though he prepared me, until you're living it, you don't realize that it's hard to make plans because cattle get out, things happen. They don't know it's Christmas, as Jay says.
The last 2 years perhaps put a dent in the natural optimism of Jay Davis, but the bad times could not break it.
I guess farmers and Cub fans all kind of always looking for next year, and you got to be an eternal optimist to stay in this business.
Jay and Laura Davis, the outstanding young farmer rancher finalists from Johnson County. A tough job for the judges, but Jay and Laura Davis of Grandview were named the outstanding young farmer and rancher of Texas for 2006. Well, that's our show. Thanks for joining us here on RFD. Join us again next time as we travel the rural highways of this great Lone Star State and bring you the stories of Texas agriculture and the farm and ranch families that live here.